Okay, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. First show of the day with a new friend. We're going to get to know her in front of everybody as usual. Spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and depending on what we're talking about, are doing courageous. So it should be a really good show. Stick around. Be right back in like a minute and a half. How's it going, everybody? Getting a little late start this morning. We had some tech issues, but anytime we have tech issues, we always have a great show. We got a new friend in the house, and I'm going to pull her up in just a minute, and then we're going to get to know her. Just a couple of quick announcements. Thank you for your continued love and support. Contributions allow us to keep doing this every day by the seat of our pants in typical ascension manner. And if these shows resonate with you, please share so we can stay above these algorithms on Facebook and YouTube. I really would appreciate it because we're getting suppressed really more than ever. But we're working on that solution, and we've talked about it for a couple of years, and we're getting closer. Let's see here. A lot of people talking about the energy that's been prevalent for the last 2-3 days, and maybe that's a good topic to start with today. All right, let's get Kristine Kieland up here. I hope I got the name right. I do. Hey, how you doing? You're muted. yeah.
There, is that better?
Yeah, you look just like your videos.
Okay, good.
You look just like your videos. I went and
well,
tapped into a couple of them.
Good, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming in and honoring us.
Very nice to be here. I'm very grateful. Again, there's a lot going on, two extremes, and then a little bit in the middle too. So
I haven't seen any of that part.
Yeah,
a little bit in the middle.
Well, I know it's there. I haven't seen a whole lot of it either, but
yeah, and I can't say that I've had much in the extreme that I don't want to be on, even though I know we got to own everything. But yeah, it's been a pretty cool ride. But I was kind of shocked because I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Oh my God, it's 1:11 in New York City.
That's cool.
So it was probably around 7 o'clock in the evening, and something just, you know how it is when you got to do something, your whole body feels it. So I thought, oh, I guess I got to post something. So I put up this meme and I said, something huge is happening. It is happening. Can you feel it? And whatever else it said. It was just a little meme. And 900 people later was like, boom, like that. I don't typically, that doesn't happen if I post something. It might be a couple hundred people or something, and it wasn't so much the number of engagements, it was the comments. There must have been 200 plus comments on there, and the the comments that people were making in regard to the last couple of days was amazing. People talking about skipping timelines. One lady said she went to somewhere, and at the same time she was buying lottery tickets, and then she ended up at a hotel. Another one was talking about how their kids and the animals were acting strange, and then a lot of people talking about the body, feet swelling, heart palpitations, lower back issues. Sounds to me like, a lot of stuff coming up from the mind, reservoirs that we store those things in the body. But I don't know what's your experience been like. I know you work with a
cellular
lot of
memory.
people. Huh?
Yeah, it's merging the timeline, and now just it's been nuts actually from my perspective. I try really well to just witness things, but I go really far out, and so sometimes I do, like this week I got caught up a little bit in the emotional body of everything that's going on. So for me this week personally was a lot of unrest, I guess, coming up, and seeing the grief and the turmoil. At the same time, you see all the joy and the wonder and the really, like you've been saying, the really cool things where where there is no time, where you're going through dimensionals in the same reality. So I get a sense of both of it, but with clients and stuff this week, it's been a little bit more of the grief coming up out of cellular memory in the body.
Right? Wow.
And then all the different aspects of yourself trying to, come into wholeness and just be the one voice. A lot of the voice is being activated for people from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's something I've seen too. And I don't know if it was Judith Kuzel yesterday or somebody else I talked to, because they're all mirrors of me and I can't tell the difference anymore, although I should be able to.
No, time's really very very, very difficult. And
I know it is. But she was talking about, I think it was her, she was talking about the throat chakra. God, I get these shows. I can't tell one from the other, but there was conversation in the last 3 or 4 shows, and I think it was her, but in regard to the blue ray, and I never really heard it put in that context before, but the importance of the throat chakra. And I've picked up on that doing this show and just observing people, and even myself, because I can remember 3 or 4 times they came in and put like a blue stone in my throat as I was crossing new thresholds with Soulogy. But the importance of it in that it does kind of integrate the physical and the non-physical, because it's a visual and you can hear it and kind of see it, and yet it's invisible in terms of the waves of the words, or and so, but there are a lot of people speaking up, and you can see
is the heart space opens. Oh, excuse me, Todd.
No, it's okay. We got a little bit of a lag, so if it sounds like I'm interrupting you, it's the same thing. No big deal. No, but even the projection. A lot of people on the show have talked about the projection lightworker community over the last whatever this is, like 3 or 4 weeks, which is like 30 years in the ascension. But it's kind of a good sign, I think, because it's got to come up, right? Just like these aches and pains and the grief you were talking about. But the fact that people are confident enough to speak up, even if they're projecting a little bit, is better than staying silent and repressing like we've done all these thousands
Absolutely.
of years.
And they're starting to trust their inner knowing, that inner wisdom, and that inner, your inner being is coming more online. And that's, I want to say hopefully that's where people are going to, but really wherever you are is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong. But it's an inner knowing and opening that up. And this space right now is just very, to me, it looks like a pulsing heart, even though it's not your heart center, but it's a getting comfortable with having it open all the time and have a clear flow and that clear connection to your own source, and then to the rest of the world and how you relate. Because right now we relate through language, we relate through, words, and that's what gets so confusing. We're learning how to not relate through words. We're learning how to relate through intuition. But that's a process.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night, how, when first of all, people are starting to just tell it like it is, which is a little bit uncomfortable, but telepathy, that's closer to telepathy than repression of feelings, or beating around the bush, or walking on eggshells. So there's that part of it. They're just telling it like it is, and I think that's creating some new dynamics in terms of how we treat each other. But we were talking last night about, when you explain something or you reply to something, it doesn't take a lot of words. It really doesn't, because there is a palpable energetic in the field over the last, say, 10 years or so, as people have communicated on the internet and expressed themselves on the internet far beyond words. I mean, some people on the internet, all they do is put up images, yet you can almost feel their personality and know who they are, with a little bit of time. But so you got you got that part of it. And ultimately, we won't need words. You and I could sit here and we're going to pass information in code. And, I'm sure there'll be a time where we, body language and the look in our eyes and that type of thing plays into it. But at some point, you would think.
Well, we have good models on the planet right now. We have the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom that do that very well.
Yeah.
So we can tap into that and watch that.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say Trump and Biden do that very well.
Oh, so
I'm kidding. I'm just joking. I had to make a joke.
Right. Keep it light.
Right. Yes. So you're in the U.S. You're in the U.S.
I am. I'm in the Twin Cities. I'm in the St. Paul area. Minnesota, very close to Wisconsin. So I'm really lucky. I'm by two rivers. I'm by the St. Croix River and the Mississippi River. And you know how the energy flows there.
I have a really good friend that lives there, and I need to call her. I'm the worst at keeping up with people.
You're a bit busy.
Yeah. Well, I met her one day in Florida. We were down in Florida in January for a conference, and we have a mutual friend. So I drove over there and did a show with my friend. And before the show even started, Karen is her name, Daoust, Daoust, something like that. She said, "Hey, I'm leaving tomorrow, and you and your wife can come stay here if you'd like, and you can broadcast." And so she lives up there. I should introduce you to her because she's extremely high vibrational, but one of those many, primarily women that have stood in the background, not really wanting to come forward. Now they're starting to come forward, which is great for everybody. But yeah, that's a high energy place. I've been up there. It's a lot of.
It's a really cool place. Yep. There's a lot of galactic energy here. There's a lot of
Sasquatch.
a lot of anything. It's kind of yes, there's friends who see those. Yep. But it's kind of a good microcosm of what goes on in the rest of the planetary system, because you can tap into that here really easily.
Yeah.
Well, you can't anywhere, but yeah.
Yeah, but I spent some time there, and to me, it's like, God, where did this gigantic city come from? Because you think about New York, Chicago, Boston,
right.
Houston, and many, and it's just up there, kind of, by itself.
Kind of on its own, but
there's a lot of people there, and a lot of energy. So I know you work with people. I know you're a practitioner. I saw your little byline, which is similar, the energy of it is very similar to Morgan and quite a few, when we've had on here, who know they came here for the purpose of assisting the awakening of individuals, almost like a spiritual midwife. I'm going to show you the door.
That's a good name.
I'm not going to, force the horse to drink the water, but I'm going to open the door and show you there and show you the way. And so how long have you been doing that?
That's not something, some people know they were born for that, and they kind of have that yearning their whole life. I wasn't one of those. I probably last 5 or 6 years really came into that knowing. That was it. As my consciousness expanded, about 10 years ago, I have what my, I really decided to be intuitive. Before that, I was intuitive, understood things, knew things, but it wasn't until I had a breast cancer diagnosis in 2009 that I just knew, either, honey, I actually heard, you're either this serious, you're either going to do your work or you're checking out of the body. I had no idea what the work was, but I was pretty confident that I was staying, that this was just an experience I needed to go through. So I'd never say, I survived breast cancer, it's just something I experienced. And very quickly, that gave me the time to start listening. And I started listening to my higher self, started doing the automatic writing, just kind of claimed that was something I needed to embody, was intuitive abilities. So it started out as more of a medium, psychic type of understanding.
Was that the first time you ever heard a voice, I guess?
No, looking back, I had it like my whole life. I just didn't recognize it as anything special. Actually, I remember asking.
But in that moment, you did.
In that moment, no, even in that moment, I just thought that's just how I relate. It wasn't anything specific. It really wasn't until about a year later when
So either you get to work or you're checking out of the body.
yeah, and that wasn't an odd thought to me, as it would be. You know, my mom was pretty intuitive and taught people to, and but it was never really something I wanted to go further into. I just wanted to be really normal.
Yeah.
I thought, and I had a lot of stuff I hadn't, right? Yeah.
Good luck.
Stuff I hadn't understood about myself and feelings I hadn't processed. But I always had a pretty good intuitive outlook on life. And as a kid, I just knew a lot. And then as I was told, as you're growing up, you're told you don't know that. There's no way you can know that. So then I started thinking, am I rude? Am I not a good listener? Just kind of tapped it down. But I always saw stories, heard stories, knew things, but I really just kept it tapped down. And then after the breast cancer diagnosis, I started kind of I just listened to myself better.
Now, were you pursuing, some information through books and teachers and classes, or were you just going direct from day one?
Pretty direct. I did read. I went to the bookstore, and without even consciously being intentional, my intention was to find whatever would best serve me at that time. And I found Neil Donald Walsh's Conversation with God.
That's a good one.
And I read that and I thought, this makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, actually I did go get training to be a life coach, because I had heard after the cancer diagnosis, I kept hearing the word life coach, but I didn't know if I was making that up or if it was something I needed to pursue. So I found a workshop, a class in California. So I went out there once a month for 6 months. And out there is when I really had probably the most detailed experience that really told me what I was going to be doing. There was a woman in the class from Chile, and she wanted to be a psychic life coach. And everybody said, you can't do that. You'll scare everybody. And I said, honey, if that's what you want to do, you do that. That's not scary. That's just who you are. And that's how you need to, that's how you show up for people. People will relate to that. And we were having lunch one day. There was just a blank wall behind us. And she said, there's somebody behind it I'd like to talk to you. And I turned around and I saw this beautiful tree-lined like boulevard with a dirt road and like 100 trees. And at the end of the dirt road was this looked like a little peasant lady to me, like in white shirt and white dress and everything looked to me like about 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And she kept getting closer and she just said, you need to take this ability, this gift further into your life stream. And my mom was standing at the side of me. My mom had crossed over, transitioned in January, and this was probably May. Uh-huh. And she was saying, I wasn't brave enough to do this, but you need to take this further. And I actually thought it was my mom's ancestral line, but it was actually my dad's ancestral line that was bringing me the information to step forward.
So you're having lunch with this lady from Chile, and then she says, look over there. So you're actually having, weird. Which is, well, no, it's not weird. Yeah. And I've said this before, because, Morgan and I have joint dimensional experiences, or whatever you want to call it. So I know most everybody that's listening or will watch this has had at some point, a level or another, these divine episodes or whatever you want to call them. But when you start to have them with somebody else, where two or more gather, that's like really like you might want to listen, because that's not something that's common. Now it's probably going to become that way, but that's fascinating. So you're sitting there, you meet her, you're like, hey, you can do whatever you want, and then it gets flipped on you, and there's your mom and this ancestral representative or whatever. The message is
And I always forget this part, but we had to set an intention for that morning. And the intention, when I was sitting there, I just saw like an open space with silver goblets and as many as I could possibly see within my field of vision. And I was holding a pitcher of water. And my thoughts were, you're a vessel of knowledge and wisdom. And those aren't my normal words, But then once I had that vision with my friend, it was like, well, this makes sense. You're going to take wisdom and bring it forward. And you're going to do it in a way that people can relate to it, like as easy as drinking a glass of water. It'll be a way that's not scary or divisive. It'll just be what's best for them in the moment.
Did your family and friends pre these experiences have anything to say post the experiences?
Yeah, right. And that was even sometimes it's very natural for me to tell somebody, and other times a little bit scary. I remember I came home from that weekend in California. I told my husband, I got it. I'm a psychic.
Hmm.
I need to be a psychic. He was used to my mom, and he was used to that world a little bit. And he just said, and he's always been my cheerleader, always supported me everywhere I went. He said, "Great, honey, do whatever you want, but just don't tell anybody." And I thought, okay, well, that's not going to really work. I kind of need to
Yeah.
tell people that this is what I'm doing. So it took me about you know what? It's that time thing again. Some things I just don't remember
I
really
can't
well.
anymore. I can't anymore. But
Um,
I did get a download a few days ago, and it was like, you're because I was asking, I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I got in the car and I was driving down the road to go to the store, and I thought, what the hell am I going to the store for? And I couldn't remember. And I said, hey, is this going to come back? And they said, no. And I said, well, how are we going to function? And I hear, well, you're losing 3D memory, where you've had 3D memory and you've lost your multidimensional memory. Let's just put it that way. They said, as you lose the 3D memory, it's making space for more of your multidimensional memory. And then I went into the whole thing about, okay, how do we do that? How do you schedule shows? And they're like, oh, you'll get there.
mm-hmm.
Don't worry, it'll happen. And I'm like, okay, right. No, I bring this up with you because so many people are waking up, and I know because I get a lot of messages that a lot of people can relate to the experiences that the person that we're sharing space with is describing. And one of those things is, hey, when you really start to get hit and you're mainlining infinite intelligence, you might not want to go tell everybody because they're going to tell you you're crazy, but it's so powerful you can't help yourself. I've noticed that even if people hear it, and myself included, I got the same advice that your son gave
Mm-hmm.
you, but I couldn't keep
Yep.
myself from doing
No, and it's going to place of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a moment where you have no, it's almost like you have no control over letting it loose, right?
Yeah.
Whatever needs to come forward needs to come out. And
Well,
it's trusting
yeah.
that. For me, I know I just wanted to be loved,
Yeah.
basically. I just wanted to be in people's lives. So it was a big step of trust to still be accepted. And I got that. I got the acceptance. So that was really helpful for me. I know not everybody gets that, but
Now, did
I was
you
fortunate to have
have?
that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's some things I see in other people. I'm like, well, how come that doesn't happen to me? And I think that happens with a lot of us because some people are like, they're really clear this or clear that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times too, which is good for people to know that are waking up, is every one of us had doubts, even as recent as a week ago. You're like, is this really going on, or am I just crazy? You know,
Yep,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's part of the evolution, just like having to tell people. And then, the next step is usually, making public posts that nobody's listening to me. They won't wake up. And then
Yep.
then
Yeah.
you realize, you know what? Just let it go. Let it go. So, so when as you were waking up, or as this was all coming into your field or expanding or whatever you want to call it, was there certain divine essences or galactic presences that were making themselves known, or were you speaking to
Um,
one voice?
Originally it was just my regular, not regular, but just guides and then
Mhm.
angels. And I, listened to the angelic realm, and they came through, and a lot came through in automatic writing. I would sit down and just ask what I need to know. And I'd look back later and be like 5 different handwritings.
Mm.
And I would just get those messages that way. Then it became, um, then I worked with the angelic realm for a while, and then the galactic started coming in. That's mostly who I work with right now.
Mm.
And that was probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 years ago. And I saw the Arcturians twice within about a 24-hour time period. And I was sitting in my bedroom, and I just saw these big white globes coming towards me. Like 3 came in, and then like 30, and then 3,000 came in. Like I couldn't even see the room. And I said, who or what is this? And they said, we're the Arcturians here to assist with healing. And I'd never heard that word before. So I just trusted it. I Googled it to see what Arcturians were. And so sure enough, somebody else had heard of them too. So
Just somebody else. You're right. They
so
only
I
have
was
a
like,
big star
cool.
system. Yeah. So
And
they
then the
were what,
Pleiadians, yeah.
like white orbs? Was that, is that what you
To
said?
me, they just came in as white orbs.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then kind of just sparkly, and then the whole room was just filled. But more I get now it's more of a sensation. I just
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
when they come in. And
Yeah.
same thing, your skills and abilities shift and move as
Yeah.
expand your consciousness. For some, it
And,
stays the exact same. Mine kind of might have gotten more subtle over the years.
and your yeah, exactly. And your truth changes too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I always say it's
you
true until it's not.
right.
Right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can like be running like a thoroughbred, on a Friday, and you're like at the top of your game with your modality and the top of your game with everything. And then you wake up on Monday and it's like, okay, we're starting over now. What was
Especially now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about
Yep.
that last night, that there's a lot of humble pie being eaten right now, and that's a very good thing. Um,
Absolutely.
oh, but back to the Arcturians, and again, we talk about these things on the show because it's happening to people, and I want to make 2 points. One is what you said about the as time has gone on, I guess what I'm saying is the five sense evidence kind of fades away, and it's a very subtle kind of thing, which is part of the reason I think it's sometimes for me we all like, did I hear that? Am I just talking to myself? I mean, it's what I mean. But it's weird because a lot of people that have come on the show, they'll say like every now and then you'll hit that phase of where'd everybody go? It's like
Mm-hmm.
y'all were
You get into
talking
that
to
void
me,
space, right?
yeah, and you're just like, what's going on here? But I think the other thing too is the physical, uh, aspect of whatever you want to call it, visitations or divine experiences. I know, like for me, the Arcturians, they came in. I'd never seen them. They had talked to me. I didn't know it was them. And then when things got to a point where something needed to be done or needed to be, emphasized to me, they came in the room and
Cool.
they were like the white, and they were the same kind of thing happened. A few came in and they were these, how you make those abstract birds when you paint,
Yep.
they were all like that, and they were flying all over the
Yeah.
place. So I immediately dialed Morgan on the phone in Australia. I said, please help me. There's there's a bunch of
What is
birds.
going on, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, these things, they do happen, at different levels, and it's nothing to compare each other to, just like with the skills and abilities, because everybody seems to have certain things that they're directed or guided to do, like you were.
And it comes through our personality, comes through our
Mhm.
filter. It's real easy to compare. Sometimes it's hard not to compare or wonder why, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But really doesn't serve a purpose, just kind of our humanness personality coming through.
Mhm.
Like, that's really cool. I want to do that. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
I think the recent, well, I don't know how far we go back now. What month this is? So like maybe 10 weeks.
August,
To
yeah.
me, it's been since June 1st. Like June 1st, I just went, uh-oh, something's like totally shifted. Like not shifted even. It was like a new atmosphere. Just the math was different. The communication was different. But one of the things, getting back to what you said, in regards to comparing ourselves, or or not comparing ourselves or whatever, one of the things that's been a big equalizer, from my opinion, over the last 10 weeks or so, has been the humanness that's being exposed. The projection, the opinions, hey, if you don't like this, get off my wall. And I'm like, this is a light worker, and I'm not damning it or judging it. I'm just saying that it's, to me, become an equalizer, because you're actually seeing people all over the board. But it's specific, to me, is like some of these people that have been out there a while, that have really led the way, that have a broad community, and in a lot of awareness out there, and they're being human, which, that's a very, that's a good, I mean, that's a good thing. It's a painful thing sometimes to watch, but everybody's the same,
Right. And we're all here for
everybody.
the human experience. We're all
That's right.
source energy in physical form, and we're going to do
Yeah.
our humanness
Yeah.
You know, we have lots of life experience, lots of wisdom, but it's going to come out in different ways. And yeah, there's a lot of blame, a lot of divisiveness. I just see it as the end of an era.
Yeah.
And kind of stepping into the beginning of a new era. So you have to get all that stuff done, right? How this be brought to the surface so you can look at it.
It's like the storm before the calm.
Yeah. And there are times where like I felt very, very peaceful and you can just see it all unraveling around you, but the center is very, very peaceful.
Yeah.
But, you know,
yeah,
that's not always the most present thing. Even like the virus, when I look at the virus, when I look at the very center of the virus, I see a spark of light.
Yeah.
And to me, that spark of light ignites into everybody the density that needs to be brought forward.
That's right.
You know, there's lots of reasons and you can go into lots of different things, but that's basically what it is. It's like it helps us to bring that divinity within us and actually start speaking it and living it and understanding and knowing that we are divine beings in physical form, right?
Yeah, it's probably it's a great plan that we implemented. I mean,
it unifies us. You know, we got to end the traumatic unification, which you see a little bit more of that every day. It's a little kind of like a pendulum swinging, but I understand we're finding that balance.
Yeah.
So
I think another thing that, of course, we had the isolation. You have people that have been living in a home, cohabitating with people that they've been cohabitating with for 15 years that they never talked to. So you got that aspect. And you got people pulled out of their patterns and behaviors because, you know, work stops, school stops. And so that kind of changes, you know, you've got a kind of a expansion of creativity and open-mindedness. And now we're moving into, you know, this space where, because I guess this, you know, the whole evolution, well, I guess part of the purpose that we have is really, it's to grow, right? I mean, we're here to expand ourselves and thereby expand the universe. And, you know, we're getting to this, and so much of that is tied to the self-love quotient. You know, we can put it a lot of different ways, you know, different things and make that up. But I guess what I'm getting at is, I think going back to what you said about people starting to speak, and if they're starting to speak, then what comes next? If everybody's starting to claim their sovereignty and they're no longer neglecting themselves and they're no longer sabotaging themselves and they're honoring and respecting and revering themselves, what's that gonna look like on the collective? Because people are putting their foot down and they're saying, you know what, this doesn't make sense. I've had enough. I'm not going to do this. Yeah. So that's crazy. Yeah.
And it's going to be a little messy for all, because so many, that's not a comfortable thing to do. So you have to do it, you know, you don't have the ability for some to do it real gracefully and with kindness. So it has to come out forcefully. You know, it has to come out very extreme. But I do see, it doesn't look like it's going to be for, you know, it's hard to say time-wise, but maybe the next 2-3 years, it could be next 2-3 months. But it feels like January, February, we see a big shift. You know, last year I kept saying August is something. August 15th, I don't know what it is. I wasn't given that information yet, but that was a big, major, you know, shift in consciousness.
Yes, it was.
An expansion of our hearts, an expansion of ourselves into understanding, truly understanding why we're here and what we're doing, even if you don't have the consciousness of it.
Yeah.
Even your cellular memory in your body recognizes that.
Yeah.
It's like the timer's going off. So all these physical symptoms are coming forward too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm with you too. I mean, you know, I have a lot of people come through this show, 2,000 plus shows, and some, you know, well, they all have gifts. And then there's some that have these forecast, you know, they've got pretty strong, reliable, you know, forecasting abilities. But anytime I hear, you know, it's going to be 10 years or 20 years or 2 or 3 years before this or this happens, and I keep thinking to myself, oh no, it could flip at any time, just like tomorrow. This period that you're talking about.
Yep. It could be tomorrow. I don't see it being 100 years or anything like that, but literally, it doesn't seem that far off when you're looking at the big scale of things. It's not, because every day. So when I hear vibration, I hear vibration frequency as a sound. I hear almost like an orchestra starting up.
Yeah.
And I can tell when it's a little off, and it gets really clear, and then maybe gets a little bit more like staticky or rusty to me. And then you see the clarity coming, and more I'm seeing more and more clarity. That's when you go, you don't like to say higher or lower because it just is energy, but you get more expanded, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can sense that clarity, but we have to get through the density first and the misunderstanding within ourselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is this understanding that I created this experience.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, and we've talked about these things for years. Even if you look at the sacred text, go within, go within. Well, what does that mean? I mean, that's a totally different thing to look at, living 2,000 years ago. And I'm not taking anything away from when we were 2,000 years younger.
No.
But I'm just saying that it's such a fast-moving, fast-paced realm that, and then to throw this in and to start to have these higher understandings, all this stuff you're seeing, people leaving the big cities, moving out to the country, people pulling their kids out of school before the quarantine happened, the homeschooling, and, just it's already been happening. But now it seems like
now it's just more extreme. It's this mass exodus, this max shift in consciousness. People may not even understand why they're being pulled to something, but they will soon discover why it's best for them.
So
all the systems are breaking.
Oh, absolutely, they are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you now the type of session work that you do, is it I mean, I've talked to a lot of practitioners, especially this year, that talk about everything's changed. It just depends on who walks in the door, and then I just follow my guidance, and every one of them's different. But is your practice more like that, or do you have like specific modalities that you use?
No, mine's more like that. I have different modalities. I used to do table work, energy body work if that was necessary for the client, and I just kind of do it, intuitively and bring in whatever energies need to be present. But no, it's always been hard for me to define what I do because it's not cookie cutter. It's not like I follow a process. I'm not a process person.
Yeah.
So I really I listen to your heart song. I listen to you. I look at your energy. What's best for you to know in this moment, and then we'll go wherever you need to go. Or if you want to start this place, but that's not really what you need to best understand, or you have healed, or, healing is just transformation. So, and I always let people know you are participating. You're doing this. I'm just highlighting it for you, talking in a way so you can understand it, getting the information you can't. So it's never the same. It is sometimes comes in themes, right? You may see a bunch of clients for a while, or what you see playing on the global stage will show in a much more smaller way. Maybe it's relationships, or maybe it's, for a long time I worked with a lot of sexual abuse. And I do that still, just basically trauma, right? But so it kind of comes in waves, but I have many different ways of helping that I pull in. And some things, I remember years and years ago, I was sitting working with a client, and I had no clue what a chakra was, didn't know anything, and didn't know any of that information. I just told you, got to just picture deep ropes velvet ropes going into the ground, and anchor yourself in, and told her how to work the energy up. And then later on, I think somebody actually gave me the book Chakras for Dummies, one of those yellow books,
They have
and that's how I first, yes.
The metaphysical books have hit the Dummies series.
Right. So then I would download something, and I'd find out later, that is actually like a technique, or that's something other people are using. But for me, because the doubt was pretty strong when I first started, just in general, doubting myself, that I really didn't want to source from other people or read other books. It was just like, I needed trust. I was told right away. And my dad, who had already transitioned, he said, honey, just don't worry. I will believe in you until you believe in yourself. And that was really helpful for me to have that energetic support from somebody that I knew truly loved me and gave me deep, deep love. So I just kept, if I heard it, even if it sounded crazy,
well, that's when you're supposed to do it.
Right. Because it's not, it's not for me to judge what's coming through. Yeah. So,
I heard if it doesn't make sense, do it.
Yeah.
Which
right.
makes it a lot easier, because when it's something that's more typical or acceptable.
And I always tell people, I don't tell you what you already know, because that doesn't serve a purpose. You already know what house you live in, who you're, who you live with, or where you went to school. But I'll tell you something that really will help you. That's normally a bigger picture.
You mentioned that you work a lot with the Arcturians. Do you work with them in that capacity? Are they helping you in these sessions, or is it in another?
They come in a lot. They'll come in through light language. Palladians come in, Blue Avians, Council, long time ago was Council Light came in, Galactic Federation, about 14 different councils. Sometimes I know names, sometimes I don't. I really don't care if I know a name. I think one day I actually wrote down like 80 different consciousness or races that came in, but that's not my filter. I just can sense and know that it's coming through love, but a lot of times it does come through light language, vibrational toning. It's different for everybody.
I would think that over the years that most of your clients have been women. Are you seeing an increase? Are you seeing an increase in men?
I have. It's still about 80. It's still about 20%, 80% women, 20% men, some children, some families, but yeah, it's more women. I think I never want to label or say this is why, but sometimes they are the first ones to search out an understanding, or the wives will bring their husbands or bring their sons or bring, brothers or whatever. And I'm, obviously a lady, so that's the comfort, but that's what, people see what they're looking for. Yeah. So, yeah. But I have seen more men. I've actually seen people that are really changing. They're not, used to just see, no offense to anybody, I don't mean it that way, but people are really having a hard understanding that they've been the victim, quote, the victim. I've seen more of the perpetrators starting to come in now to get help, or whatever that means in their, so that's
powerful.
Really powerful, because you want to.
That is powerful. Yeah,
it is.
Well, and you mentioned too earlier, which is seemed to be coming up, to the surface now in a way it hasn't been before, and that's sexual distortion, rape, incest, child, trafficking. All that stuff is at least bubbling at the top right now, and there does seem to be, like an energy that's starting to poke its head there that you're referring to, which is the perpetrator. My friend wrote a post a couple of days ago, and he said, in so many words, these people are ready to be released now. They're ready. They fulfilled their role. They're ready to be released, but they can't do it. We have to do it. Everyone's on their own, you know what I mean? But like you said earlier, where's that energy in me, or even in the universe? Because if we can't disown anything,
nope. You have to look at everything.
Yeah. So I think
that parasitic energy is ready to be dissolved, because that parasitic energy cannot exist in a higher consciousness or more expanded consciousness. And then there's others that that's all they know is how to get energy from other people instead of going straight to source. And then there's others that are kind of manipulated, controlled in that. Like the first gentleman I saw who actually came in that was an abuser, that gentleman was in so much pain. He was in the exact amount of pain as somebody that was victimized, right? So you can't really judge, neither right or wrong, but he was just ready. He was ready to own his part in it. Wow. Take responsibility in the moment to now, not like any other time frame, but in the moment to now. And you take responsibility in the moment now, that kind of like the domino effect takes responsibility for all life experience, if it's the same concept. So tremendous change is really present. But there's a lot of this dense energy that has to be dissolved and transformed first, and that's what's coming out.
Time to face the music, and I've been saying for 2 years that it's now I realize now 2 years later that what I thought disclosure would be is far different than what I thought 2 years ago, but one of those things being justice and tribunals and people being locked up or put onto the carpet, but to me it's not so much are these things happening, what's going to happen, but what's going to happen from the victim's standpoint or the observer's standpoint. What level of compassion and understanding and awareness are they going to deal with this? Because it's also another opportunity to go deeper into the chaos by taking a polarizing position, saying it serves you, you deserve it, burn in hell, whatever the case is.
Right.
that's, like that gang mentality, vigilante mentality. But I gotta say, if I take, and I kind of touch base with several different websites every day just to stay on top of stuff, just to know, and expose myself to things so I can continue to discern. But if I removed that and just look at the people, the energy of the people that come across, my field of vision, I think we're doing a hell of a job. I think
Oh my
people
gosh.
are expanding across the board, whether you want to call them awake or not awake. I mean, something's going on.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like awake, like you and I talk about it, right? But
Mhm.
through every population, through every occupation, right? The compassion and love is just totally expanding. We saw so much at the very beginning of the pandemic, right? People were
Mhm.
coming up with creative ways to connect to each other and be compassionate to one another. And I always look at it as expanding an energetic field,
Yeah.
right? So if you want to look at it as a cloud or something, but here's one where you can blame and shame and really go into the hate, match the hatred, right, of the abusers, because that
Mm.
comes from fear. Right, my preference, I want to decrease that field, and I want to take the one of compassion and love
Yeah.
for all experiences. And the more I feel compassion for myself and love, that expands the field, and somebody else who's not in it, they have the opportunity to like start embodying it, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's so important we do the work that we do, so more people are aware that it really is about compassion and love, and to try
Well,
to understand that.
yeah. And if you're swimming in the pool of compassion and love, you can't really focus on the other one, and
Right?
then
You
what ends up
can't do both.
happening, yeah, what ends up happening is you have, you know, for every person that makes that choice and stays in that pool of love and compassion, there basically becomes a surplus in the other pool. And
Mm-hmm.
so where X number of people were, burdened with the hate and all the negative loops, now you got X number of people that have gone to the other pool. You still have the same volume of that dense energy. There's fewer people carrying the load
Right.
because they're
Yeah.
feeling more pressure. And I think that's another thing that I try to remember. And we've all had villains in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, I've learned that that's the best place I can go every day is go check in with those who hurt me the most, or at least I thought they did, to see where I stand. But you really start to think about what they did and why they did it. It
Mm-hmm.
was not what I did or what you did. There's every piece of the puzzle is different. And I remember one time getting this download about one person in particular, and it was basically explained to me that who would you, if you were coming down here to have this experience, who would you want more to play that villain than someone that you're extremely close to up there?
Right, with extreme love, right? I love you
Right.
so much.
Mhm.
We
I'm
will
going to
play
beat the
this
hell out of
parts
you.
together, right? I will
Yeah.
be the person, right? And we've had that. And the more
Yeah.
you can understand that,
Mhm.
right? That's when
Yeah.
life gets a little bit easier. Not that it
Yeah.
won't be hard or emotional, you still got to figure it out, but
Mm.
when you figure out all things come from love,
Yeah.
even those where loved, even in the pockets where love doesn't feel like it even exists,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
You
still comes from
cannot,
love.
you cannot, well, to this point, we've not been able to comprehend how it all works. You know,
No, not at our conscious
there's,
level.
no, it's going to
No.
take, yeah, so it's going to take more quantum growth in the mind. And and
Mm-hmm.
and 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 then here's another thing too, that this year there's I hear a lot of people saying it's coming in so fast, or it's coming in so thick, or both. I don't even know what the hell I'm getting. I just know I'm being downloaded, and then they're like, and then I'm being told you don't need to know. Like, you're going to know when you need to know. When
Mm-hmm.
the situation arises, that information is going to present itself. You don't need to try to write everything down. And the other thing I've been observing a lot this year too is people that have been connecting for a long, long time, who've been out there, because otherwise, how would you know? I mean, they've been public, which is brave, which is, I have big respect for that. And they're starting to kind of disengage and detach from the over identification of their channel, of their,
Mm-hmm.
of their whatever, and starting to realize that, holding on to something like that is no different than holding on to an old trauma, because it's
Mm-hmm.
limiting, who you are.
Absolutely. Yep. And the labels and the identifications, and it's not always, but many times it's an aspect of yourself. Like I go Arcturians, I go to whatever dimension I go to, I'm there.
Yeah.
Right. And it comes through my filter. There's other things I can access too. That's not just my energy stream, but it's losing the attachment to all. That's when we can do that, right? We're not there yet, and that may not happen for a very long time.
I don't know. But
may happen tomorrow. Right.
I think the only reason it wouldn't happen is because we don't want to get out of here that quick. I mean, I know from a human level,
enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, I would much rather, kick back post, whatever you want to call that, post tipping point, and have more of a human experience in a, that fantastical dimensional, potential field, than to go back into the ethers and be more formless or less physical. I think
it's like enjoy this physical experience where we don't cause harm to one another, where we actually delight in one another, right?
Yeah.
Where we're diligently working towards that point. There's a lot that needs to be cleared up before we get to that point, but it's not eons away. It's not hundreds of years away. It's very, in our timeline, it's very, very close.
Do you think that the people are reducing their focus of what's going on in the global stage and focusing more on the circles closest to them?
Dinner?
Like the
right now it looks like 50-50 actually. When I look at it in this moment right now, you ask me, it looks about 50-50. It kind of, again, that pendulum swings, but some people that's their only focus, right? Because then you're not looking inward.
Yeah.
If you just look global, and then you can start blaming, you're not really, it's painful. So it's very, very painful to either the Kabbalah, Illuminati, or parasitic energies causing problems, or a party, or somebody else is doing anything wrong, or doing everything right, like whatever your perspective is. It seems like there's more of a perspective doing wrong. And then people are really coming in tight and looking at themselves and their relationships. So, right in this exact moment, it looks about 57% looking at themselves, and the rest is looking globally. But that's, last week it looked like about 40-60. So we're shifting.
Yeah. What about these kids that are coming in?
Oh, aren't they amazing? They're amazing. Yeah. They're like no filter. There's, few coming in last couple of years that said some like residue maybe, but boy, they're coming in, I call them fully loaded. Yeah. And they're so aware, and they're helping the parents waking up, and they just will have, we have to relate to them differently.
Yeah.
We have to
I don't think they're going to give us a choice anyway.
No, they won't. And that's where you're seeing problems in the families, because, we think of them as children. They're wise, beautiful, magnificent beings, just as we are. They just have more memory of that. They're just in like smaller bodies. Yeah.
We've had
and they're bringing all kinds of gifts, and bringing in all kinds of technology and all kinds of, I don't think we'll recognize the world in about 12 years. Again, I don't like to put out timelines, but
well, if
they're amazing.
If you look at, if you go back to like 2010, the internet came in mid 90s. But really, I don't know that it really hit the levels, of information coming out. So, the acceleration of the information at the speed.
Right. It's continual now.
Yeah.
Like, and look at all the, I was just say, look at all the twins that are being born now. Yeah. Twins and triplets that are not coming through IVF. They're just coming through naturally, because these beings had to wait to be born until the consciousness was higher. Yeah. So you saw this fertility, an increase in infertility. It was really just a pause.
Yeah.
We're not coming in until this is where we need to be, the consciousness and the vibration at a higher place. Now it's,
which is another good thing about the quarantine, because more people are staying home making whoopee.
Right. You're gonna have lots of new babies, or a couple of divorces, or the separations and relationships.
Yeah, that's been going on
too.
too, right? There's been like these abrupt changes with people, and that's probably I think if I look back, I know in my own situation for sure, but if I look back at other people, there doesn't seem to be anything more impactful than when any of us have made these very difficult decisions to walk away. And jobs, relationships, homes, whatever the case is, it's such a difficult step. But everyone that, I can recall that has done it, everything starts to flow from that point on.
Much easier.
It really does. As much as it hurts, I walked the streets for 2 years. I walked away from everything. And
I remember reading that.
It hurt, but from the first day, I was like, oh, something is different. Like I feel really good, and that could supersede the 23 other hours of pain and misery and curled up in a fetal position. But there's something about taking that human action where you choose yourself.
Where it's that extreme, almost like cutting off a limb, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to do this separation of others to find my completeness of self, right?
That's right.
Where you're not separate from self. And some, I haven't had the experience like you've had, where it was so extreme, but I've had some real difficult times that were, brought you to your knees and stuff, and you really had to make the bravery had to come out. We were so brave and courageous to even be in this physical body in the first place.
That's right.
And take on this earth experience and stay in this for eons.
Yeah, that's
thousands of years in a place where
everybody's That's why I say the human's the hero, man. Because you showed up, you're a hero. You showed up here, and I think too, like I hear other stories. I don't think mine's a big. I heard these other stories, especially when they come to, childhood sexual abuse for a prolonged period of time. But everybody's pain's the same, just proportionate to their experience. But the thing is, I look at it. And I remember this, I was getting this one time and it was like, okay, a stubborn soul makes for a stubborn human. So they were like trying to explain to me that those that have come will go to the mat no matter what, and that transfers to their human experience for many of us. And we do seem to take a tough path. We're very stubborn. We have a lot of conviction. We don't like to be wrong. And then you start
to be told what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, you don't fit in, and you try to fit in and you can't, even if you try, And
you wonder why. Like I remember as a kid, I used to always wonder why, if I behave this way, or if I project out this way, if I show up as this way, then that will be the answer. Right. It took me a long, long, long time to just get comfortable in your own skin. And I know that's a common experience, but and there's childhood stuff too you got to work through. So which I did. And I have compassion for all participants and love for all participants. But
and you're at a point where you can talk about whatever without getting
I was
charged.
sexually abused as a very, very young, an infant to a couple years old. And for and I didn't remember until only a couple of years ago. Yeah. And I couldn't understand why my life didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, and you get, you go through all those emotions and you start looking at, okay, the person who did this, now I can see their bigger picture too. So you just keep going backwards till you find the beginning. It's like,
it's not even
it's almost impossible to not have love and compassion for that person when you get to that point.
Well, if you look at it too, and I think this is, I personally think what's going to happen at some level of awareness is we're going to get to a point and realize in a deeper way, or I don't know how to put it, but that there was nothing personal. This wasn't even in some respects up to us. This was programming. Mm-hmm. These were programs that we were indoctrinated with.
Right. You're a participant in it, whether you're aware of it or not. Yeah.
I remember when I first came off the streets, I picked up this book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. It was
That's a great book. Yeah, I refer that to clients a lot. Yeah.
Ann Kagan, and so the story. But there in the story, and for those of you who don't know, it's a man that had passed or transitioned. His sister was a psychologist, I think. And
I think so. I just remember,
Yeah, and he started talking to her and telling her how things went or how things were going and all. And so she wrote it down, wrote a book. But one of the things he said is that if people could see how little they have to actually do with what goes on, then there would be like, immediate awakening. People would totally like look at each other a different way. And I think he was referring to that fourth dimensional archonic parasitic stuff that we know. I mean, and I don't say that because anyone's proved it, but I mean, you can feel the difference in the air. That distortion's gone because we have moved into a higher level of sovereignty. But yeah, I think we're going to get to that point and go, oh, wow, this was just a game, or, this was just like how we set it up. But I got to believe that with these kids coming and with their memory intact and their DNA more aligned and less conditioning and such, especially when I hear stories like I have in the last year, some on this show of these children who are communicating from the womb, they're telepathic when they come out of the womb, and they're literally running their households. Like you said, they're leading their parents down the road to further enlightenment. I think at some point that narrative, that truer narrative, will be common knowledge, and I think that's going to make a big change. The way we look at each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, they're a new set of pioneers, right? We had other pioneers for a different conscience, but these little ones coming in, they are just.
I say let's hand it off to them.
Sparkly. Right?
Yeah,
I've got a granddaughter who's about 20 months, and I just see it with her, and I could hear her before she was born too. And and she's got parents that are very intentional, not wake necessarily the way I am, but they get her.
Yeah. It's kind of like Pebbles and Bam Bam on the Flintstones. Little adults that they're running.
Yeah, so it's our responsibility to make sure we hear them and see them and support them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like I said, I mean, it'd be like us. It would be a form of serious resistance, and the way things are playing out now in this universal energy is when you resist, when you attach. It's not like it used to be. Instant manifestation just doesn't work for the things that you want. It also works for the energy that you carry, and so we're being told very quickly when we're going against the grain. And I think
it's with the thought.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
I mean, you're the days of saying one thing and doing another are coming to an end very quickly, because our higher selves will put us in a very embarrassing situation very quickly now. Because
look at the little ones, see it, they will call you on it, right? And we used to like tell the little ones, no, that's not right. But they will not tolerate that anymore. They're very much speak the truth and what they see and what they understand, and they have, I don't know if it's full memory, but they have a lot of their wisdom coming in pretty full memory without a veil. So they will call us on it.
Yeah, they got it. They probably would be less inclined to, and they don't need to have a conversation like this. They the children.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll say the children I see in session, or the family in session, they're having problems because the parents will say one thing and do another thing.
That's what I mean.
Or I'm not worried about you, or everything's fine, or whatever. And the kid's like, no, you're lying to me. Like, they can't say you're lying to me, but they know that they're lying. And so they act out in certain ways, either through health issues or behavioral issues or shutting down, whatever. So it's really, again, the parents understand you are transparent, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
The children understand, because they're not children. They're just in a smaller body. So, yeah.
I mean, you think about it. If we flipped on telepathy tomorrow, we'd have mass chaos.
Wow.
It would be like,
yes, we would.
You're walking down the street and you hear somebody talking about you in their head. I mean, we're getting acclimated to it, but there is a certain literal aspect that very much involves the human and the body, and makes it very real, which I think is us tapping into our potential. To where, hey, we're going to go into into this dense realm. Let's see if we can bring the magic and the alchemy and all that. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see, teleportation, remote viewing, bilocation, mainstream in a short period.
It's not too far off. I mean, some people are doing it pretty adept right now. Not too many, but yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff being done right now. It just doesn't go. It's just not getting in the press.
Just not getting broadcast, and that'll change soon too. So
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. So how do people find you? Because I know a couple of people have mentioned it already. How do they find you?
Easiest way is through my website. I do have a
Yeah.
Facebook page and YouTube channel, but easiest way is just go to my website, KristineKieland.com. And that's
I got it.
I think you had it. I think you had it up.
Yeah, it's right there on your.
On my name.
Type.
It's on my name, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna type it into. So it's all run together.
Yep.
.com.
Yes.
Yeah, I put that on the main page.
I think it's all lowercase, but yeah, you'll find me, or like I said, YouTube or Facebook. I have my Facebook page is Conversations with Source. Kristine, I should know what that is, shouldn't I? I may have a personal Facebook page, but it's Kristine Kieland, Conversations with Source. Okay. The truth of love and joy. Yeah. So
I'm going to put that.
But I'd be happy to.
Yeah, and if you might want to go to the YouTube page, because we got quite a few people, especially on the replays on YouTube. There's 30 in there now, but there's usually over the next.
And I'll absolutely come back and take a look.
Yeah, going into the comments at Soulogy One Studios page. I'd like to collaborate with you. Yeah, I'd like to collaborate with you again.
I would love to
later in the year.
And that'd be awesome.
Now that we've kind of broke the ice, you're
right?
very down to earth, and I love that, because it's such a challenge to people that are pulling down intel and sacred wisdom like you are for so long, and not have your balance. I mean, it's a lot. It's a powerful pressure on the ego for one thing.
It can be. Yeah. I ask a lot, what's my role? I ask a lot, what's my role? And I mostly get the answers for those with one eye open that are just kind of coming online to themselves, and those that are very, against that extreme. I don't have just one channel or one tunnel that one lane that I work in.
Right on.
Mostly I just want people to love themselves, come to that point.
Yeah.
And then we're going to change. That's how you change.
I like what you said.
Too.
You just want to be loved. And you can only be loved, right, as much as you love yourself.
Much as you love yourself, right? And I remember the first day in the shower, I actually said it out loud, I love myself. Like, wow, that was that was my milestone. It's like, wow, that's a true statement. Yeah. Yeah.
That's that literal I'm talking about. Where the humans actively involved and aligned. Although it may be the last aspect coming to the party.
I think so. I think the consciousness is there. Now we get the body, and it's really fun to play. It's really fun to play out in the cosmos. It's really sometimes it's a lot more fun to play out in the cosmos and play with the different realms than to be physical. But that's why we're here, to be physical.
Yeah, and if you like my wife says, if you don't bring it down, if you don't embody it, doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's just information. It's just information. You've got to bring it in. And I think you're hearing a lot of that this year too. You're hearing a lot of people using the word embody and anchoring and applying it, as a lifestyle. And So
it's like I can read, if you can read sheet music, but you can't play an instrument. Yeah. That's a disconnect, right?
Yeah. That's kind of like me with Spanish. I can read it, but I can't talk it. I try to talk it. I sound like a
right.
Even though I'm supposed to be Latin.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for coming in and honoring us with your presence.
Totally my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll hit you. Yeah, let's connect later in the year and do it again if you're up for it.
I'd love to do that. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. And to everybody listening. Night.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.